The room was dead silent. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, slid the first document across the table. My aunt leaned forward. My cousins exchanged a glance. He read name after name. My aunt, Nyler 400,000. My cousin David, the ranch. My cousin Sarah, the investment accounts. And then, silence. My name never came, not once. My aunt pressed her lips together, trying not to smile. My cousin David actually let out a breath, like he'd been holding it for months. And here's the thing: I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just waited because I already knew what was coming. The lawyer cleared his throat. There's a second envelope. My grandfather, I called him Pops, was not a man of many words. He built everything he owned with his hands. Back in the 1890s, his father had carved out 40 acres of land in the Texas Hill Country. By the time Pops inherited it, that land was worth almost nothing. Dry, cracked, forgotten. But Pops had a gift. He saw value where others saw dust. Over 60 years, he turned that ranch into something remarkable. Cattle, oil rights, investment accounts he never talked about. Dressed like a simple man, drove an old pickup truck until it literally fell apart. Nobody, and I mean nobody, knew what he was really worth. My mother was Pop's daughter, his youngest. She loved him fiercely. She died when I was 14, car accident on a winter. Road after that, Pops raised me himself. He never said I love you, not in words. That wasn't his way. But every morning for 4 years, he made me breakfast before school. Every evening, sat on the porch and listened to whatever I needed to say. That was his love language. Presence. The problem was my Aunt Margaret didn't see it that way. She was Pop's eldest. She believed, truly believed, that everything he owned was already hers. She had spent years working on him, visiting more frequently after Mom died, reminding him of her loyalty, whispering doubts about me. Are you sure Jason is responsible enough, Daddy? That boy doesn't appreciate what you've built. You deserve to see it. Go to someone who really... Karis and Pops let her talk. He never argued, never agreed. He just listened. And watched when Pops got sick, really sick in the winter of his 83rd year. Aunt Margaret moved fast. She started having meetings with lawyers I didn't recognize, behind closed doors. With my cousins, one afternoon I came to visit Pops in the hospital. I walked in and found all 3 of them sitting around his bed with a man in a suit. When they saw me, the man immediately closed his briefcase. Margaret smiled, that practiced smile. Jason, we didn't know you were coming today. I looked at Pops. He was awake. His eyes found mine, and something passed between us. Something I didn't fully understand yet. I asked for a moment alone with him. They hesitated. But eventually they left. Pops waited until the door clicked shut, then he spoke. Just above a whisper, "Don't react when they read the will," he said. I didn't understand. "There are 2 envelopes," he said. "One of them will make your aunt very happy. The other one is for you." He made me promise. "Oh, don't fight, don't question." "No matter what happens," I promised. 2 weeks later, he was gone. Now here's what my aunt did not know. Pops had been watching for years. Every manipulation, every whispered suggestion, every attempt to push me out of the picture. He had seen all of it, and he had been planning. The will reading was set for a Monday morning. I wore the same jacket Pops had given me for my graduation. I don't know why. It just felt right. Aunt Margaret arrived in a new dress. David wore a suit. Sarah had her hair done. They looked like they were going to a celebration. And in a sense, they thought they were. The lawyer, a man named Mr. Harrison, asked us to be seated. He picked up the first envelope, opened it slowly, and began. To read out Aunt Margaret, $400,000 in cash, and the family home in town. David, the ranch, 40 acres, the cattle, the equipment. Sarah, the investment portfolio, bonds, savings accounts. Everything Pops had ever openly discussed. The lawyer looked up and folded the paper. The room exhaled. David glanced at me, and I saw it. That look. The one that said, You got nothing? Margaret brought a handkerchief to her face. Performant. Grief she didn't feel, and then, just as David reached across the table to shake Mr. Harrison's hand, the lawyer held up one finger. "We're not finished," he said quietly. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a second envelope. "I need you to stay with me here, because what was inside that envelope, it changed everything. Not just for me. For every single person in that room. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now. Hit that bell, because this is exactly the kind of story I bring you every single week. Real, unbelievable, and always worth staying until the end." Mr. Harrison opened the second envelope. Carefully, he didn't rush. He unfolded 3 documents, each clipped together, and he began to read. The first document was a land deed, not the 40 acres David had just received. Different land. Land Pops had quietly purchased. Over 15 years, in 4 separate transactions under a holding company no one in the family had ever heard of. 260 acres, adjacent to the original ranch. David's face went pale. The second document was a business registration. A private company incorporated in Pops. Name transferred to mine, effective on the date of his death. The company held mineral rights, oil rights, on land that currently had 3 active producing wells. 3 active producing wells. I sat very still. Margaret made a sound, somewhere between a gasp and a word that never quite formed. The third document was a letter. Personal, handwritten. Mr. Harrison looked at me. "Would you like to read this privately?" I shook my head. "Read it out loud," I said. "Jason, by the time you hear this, you'll understand why I did what I did. I know what your aunt believed. I know what she was working toward. And I let her believe it because I needed to see who she really was, not just to protect you, but to know in my heart that I was making the right decision. You never asked me for anything. In 40 years of building, I met a lot of people who wanted what I had. You were the only one who just wanted me. The ranch, the land David received, those are things. He can have the things. They'll argue over them soon enough. What I'm giving you is different. I'm giving you the part that grows. Use it. Well, be quiet about it. Let your work speak. And remember what I always told you. The loudest person in the room is never the most powerful one. I love you, son." Pops, the room was completely silent. Margaret stood up, said nothing, picked up her purse, and walked out. David stared at the table. Sarah looked at her hands, and I sat there in that lawyer's office thinking about an old man who drove a broken pickup truck, made breakfast every morning, who never said the words, but always showed the truth, who had spent years watching, waiting, planning, not out of anger, out of love. You know what Pops taught me? Silence is not weakness. Patience is not surrender. And the people who underestimate you, quietly, they are doing you the greatest favor of your life. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. And if you know someone who stayed quiet while others laughed, share this with them. They'll know exactly what it means. New story every week, right here on Jason's Revenge Stories. Subscribe, hit the bell. I'll see you in the next one.